Hey, sixth graders, we are going to go ahead with our next math lesson. This is going to be 14.2. We're in our last unit of geometry. Yesterday we did yesterday we did area of a parallelogram. Today is Thursday's lesson. This is going to be area of triangles. We're going to be talking about area of triangles, looking at what is a triangle, which you probably already know what that is, and then determining the area in the triangle itself. So make sure you have something to write with, something to write on as we go through this video lesson. There might be a specific note or two that you want to jot down, but you definitely want to follow along, do the practice, and make sure you have a grasp of what's going on with area of a triangle. I'm thinking you may have done this before in other years. I'm trying to remember back to when I was in sixth grade, and I feel like I learned area of a triangle in fifth grade. Maybe you didn't though. If you have or you haven't, that's okay. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but we'll go through it together. So we should probably start with what is a triangle, and you should know at this point in life that a triangle is a shape with three sides. It's got three sides, three angles, 3 points that come together. That's a triangle. Tri meaning three, angles, three literal angles, but also three sides. That's what represents and constitutes that a shape is a triangle. So it's those three sides, three angles, that's a triangle. Now, I want you to write down on your notes or your paper that this is the equation for area of a triangle. I'm giving you this equation, and you're going to need it when you are doing these problems. You'll need it when you're doing these practice problems for area of a triangle, and you'll need it when you take the quiz and the test, and you'll just need it through this geometry unit. So yesterday we talked about area of a parallelogram, and we took the base times the height, base times height, similar to length times width. They're really kind of interchangeable in some cases, but today this equation is a little different, and I want you again to write this down. This is the equation for area of a triangle. So we got A, that's area, equals 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 times the base times the height. You should write down this equation. The area, A, equals 1/2 times B times H, base times height. When we have 1/2 and B and H there side by side to each other, that just means you multiply them. You multiply them together. That's why they're side by side. So 1/2 times base times height of the triangle. So the height times the base times 1/2 equals the area of the triangle. You should write down that equation. You're going to need that through these problems. So we got our first triangle here, and it says find the area. It'll say find the area or find the area of the triangle or the figures, whatever it may be. So let's take a look. We got our triangle down here. It's 7 inches by 6 inches. Well, let's go ahead and bring our equation up. The area is going to equal 1/2 times the base times the height. So let's go ahead and write out our equation. Okay, so we've got 1/2. So 1/2 times the base. So, what's our base? Well, the base is just the bottom of the triangle. It's the part that's sitting on the bottom. If you were holding it up, you were holding that paper, it would be sitting on the bottom. So in this case, it's 6 inches. That's the base. Height, how tall is it? In this case, that's 7. So 7 inches tall, 6 inches on the base, and you times that by half. I would recommend multiplying the base and the height first because that's pretty simple math and you know how to do that. So 7 times 6, that's 42, okay? 42. But don't forget to multiply by 1/2. Multiply by 1/2. Again, I recommend multiplying the base and the height because those will normally be pretty simple numbers. You know how to multiply. So then you've got your 42. So you take your 42 and you multiply that by 1/2. If you're not remembering how to multiply fractions, you could make 42 over 1. You could make 42 over 1 your fraction. That would help you out. 42 over 1, 42 times 1 is 42 divided by 2. So it's just really 42 divided by 2, which in this case gets you 21. So we got 21. But we're not quite done yet. Remember, just like yesterday, we got to write our unit. So our unit in this case is inches. But just like yesterday, we're going to put that little 2 at the top because it's inches squared. It's inches squared. You multiply the 2 inches together, so it's inches. You wrote your unit squared. But the final answer is 21. We took 6 times 7, base times height, multiplied it by half, and we got 21 inches squared for this triangle, the area of this triangle. Next one we're going to do here, find the area of this triangle. So here's our triangle we've got. It's got all kinds of different numbers going on here. So let's find our equation to figure out what numbers we actually need. Remember, our equation is the area of a triangle equals 1/2 times the base times the height. So let's go ahead and write out our equation here. So we got 1/2, so I'll write 1/2, times base. The base is the one on the bottom, the number on the bottom, the way the triangle is sitting. In this case, it's 8.7. That's the base. So 8.7, it's a decimal. What's the height? Well, the height is not on the, sometimes it's on the outside, but sometimes it's this dotted line on the inside. So in this case, it's 5.4. The 6.2 and the 9.3, we don't need them. 6.2 and the 9.3, they're irrelevant to what we need for this problem. They're just extra numbers. So we've got our 5.4 height. That's how tall the triangle actually is. 8.7 base, and we got to times it by 1/2. So let's multiply 8.7 times 5.4 first. 8.7 times 5.4, that's 46.98. 46.98, 8.7 times 5.4, you get 46.98. Now we still need to multiply that with 1/2. So I'm going to multiply that with 1/2. You could do this in a lot of different ways, but again, you're just multiplying that with 1/2. You can turn it into a fraction, multiply it with 1/2, and when you're all said and done, you're going to get 23.49. But we're not quite done. Remember, you got to write the unit, so we'll write cm. We'll put squared because you multiply 2 centimeter sets together, so it's squared, it's centimeters squared, and your final answer for this one is 23.49 centimeters squared. That's the area of this particular triangle. So here's a you try problem. I gave you the triangle there in the corner. You'll see the height is on the outside with those dotted lines for you. I want you to go ahead and try this problem on your own. Pause the video and give this problem a try. By now, you should have paused this video and given the problem a try, so let's walk through it together. We got our equation here. Area equals 1/2 times the base times the height. So 1/2 times the base in this case is 14. That's the number on the bottom. So base is 14 times our height, which is 10. Okay, so let's do the math. 14 times 10. We'll do that one first. That's 140. So we got 14 times 10 is 140. Now we still got to multiply by 1/2. And to multiply by 1/2 is really just to divide by 2 is another way to look at it. So you're multiplying by 1/2, or you could divide by 2. It's the same thing. So 140 times 1/2, or 1/2 of 140 is 70. You could divide 140 by 2, and you'd get 70. 70. Are we done? No, sir, no, ma'am. Still need to write the unit. So in this case, it's meters m squared because you multiplied the meters together. So it's 70 meters squared. That's the area of this triangle. You multiplied the 1/2 times the base times the height, and you got 70 meters squared. Here's another practice problem I want you to try. Go ahead and pause the video and find the area of this triangle. By now, you should have paused the video and found the area of this triangle, so let's walk through it together. So we've got our equation here. Area equals 1/2 times the base times the height. Let's write it out. 1/2 times the base, which in this case is 4. It's the one at the bottom. And our height is 6. That's how tall it is. So 6 times 4, you know that math. Pretty simple. 24. Times 1/2. We still got to multiply the 1/2. Now remember, you can multiply it by 1/2, or you could divide by 2. Multiplying by 1/2, dividing by 2 is the same thing. So 24 times 1/2 is going to get you 12. 24 times 1/2 is going to get you 12, or again, you could divide 24 by 2. So you end up with 12, but we're not done. We got to write our unit, and we got to put squared. We got to put that little 2 up above because we multiplied 2 centimeters together. We got centimeters. So the area of this triangle, the 1/2 times the base times the height, is 12 centimeters squared. That's the area of this triangle. One more I'm going to have you try, and then I'm going to talk about your assignment, what I want you to do today. So go ahead and pause the video and try this problem. By now, you should have paused the video and tried this problem. Let's walk through it together. Got our equation. Area of the triangle equals 1/2 times the base times the height. Remember, it's not just base and height. We got to multiply by 1/2. Don't forget that step for triangles. You have to multiply by 1/2 once you get the base times the height for a triangle. So let's write out our equation. 1/2 times the base is 3.7. 3.7 times 2.4. 2.4 times 3.7. That's the times 1/2. So let's do 3.7 times 2.4 first. That's pretty simple math. You multiply the decimals. Again, you multiply decimals the same way you multiply other numbers, and you just carry the decimal to where it's supposed to go. So when you multiply 3.7 times 2.4, you end up with 8.88. 8.88 is what you get, but you still need to multiply by 1/2. Remember, you got to multiply by 1/2, so then you do the multiplication through that way, and you end up with 4.44. 4.44. Remember, you have 8.88, and you could multiply by 1/2, or you could just divide by 2. Either way would work. Multiplying by 1/2 and dividing by 2 is the same thing. But 4.44 isn't our final answer. We still need to write the unit, and we still need to write squared. Remember, if it doesn't give you the unit, you can just write out the word units and then put the little 2 units squared. That's what that means. But in this case, it gives us centimeters, so it's centimeters squared, and the area of this triangle is 4.44 centimeters squared. You took 1/2 times the base times the height of the triangle, and you ended up with 4.44 centimeters squared. That's the area of this triangle. Well, pretty easy peasy, pretty simple, pretty straight cut. Shouldn't be anything super duper confusing. It's similar to area of a parallelogram, a little bit of a difference because you've got to multiply the half, but overall pretty straightforward for you. So I'm just going to have you do a couple of problems. This is your assignment. I want you to do 4 and 5, so 4 through 5, and 9 through 11 on page 553. So you're going to do 4 and 5, then 9, 10, 11 on page 553. Just a couple practice triangles for you. Use that equation that you wrote down, the equation I gave you today, to find the area of those triangles. Again, just a few problems, 4 through 5, 9 through 11, page 553. If you don't have your textbook, I have the page and the problems uploaded for you. Once you're done with those problems, make sure to turn them back in on LMS. Otherwise, that's all from me for math today. Keep up the great work. Keep going strong. Keep going at it. I'm proud of all of you. I'm praying for all of you, and I'll talk to you all later.